Ashley, so much of the focus was on Mark Carney.
Adrienne, the Liberal leader had a lot at stake. He's leading in the polls, and that made Mark Carney a target. He came under attack from everyone.
You're just like Justin Trudeau. You have exactly the same policies, the same approach. We need change. And you, Mr. Carney, you do not embody change.
You represent the ultra-rich.
Mr. Poilievre is not Justin Trudeau. I'm not Justin Trudeau either, okay? In this election, the question is, who is going to succeed? Who is going to face Mr. Trump?
Same parties, same ministers, same caucus, same ideology, same hostility against Quebec. It's not just because the leader changes that the philosophy will magically change overnight.
Carney was the least comfortable in French on stage, but kept up and didn't have any big missteps. He did have to defend his promise to bring down the government's operational spending without making cuts to programs like healthcare.
These are Harry Potter financial frameworks. You need a lot of magic to make it work. There needs to be more money, but we're going to do cuts. They want to be more conservative than the Conservatives.
We've started with the cost of living. We have to cut taxes for the cost of living.
What Mr. Blanchet said is true. You are talking about a magic spell here, Mr. Carney.
We need to catalyze private investment in our economy to create new and good jobs. That's the first thing we need to do. In terms of transfers to provinces for healthcare, yes, there are limits to the federal government's activity. No new programs, no.
So, Ashley, I think no surprise to anybody, Donald Trump's trade war was a huge part of the debate night.
Adrienne, all of the leaders made the case why they believe that they're the best person to take on Donald Trump. And we saw the NDP go after the Conservatives leader, trying to suggest that he's just like Trump.
No one will be able to control the decisions of Donald Trump, but we can control our economy, our domestic economy, by overturning liberal economic policies that have weakened our country and made us more dependent on the Americans.
The issue is, Mr. Poilievre,
Well,
you would make Canada more like the United States. You would Americanize our healthcare system, privatize it.
The leaders will face off again tomorrow on stage, this time in English.
All right, Ashley Burke in Ottawa, thank you. Okay, so why don't we bring in here CBC News chief political correspondent Rosemary Barden and host of Power and Politics, David Cochrane. You two have been cuddling up right alongside me here. We're sort of sharing the one heater, taking in the debate, going through the key moments in the hours after. Rosie, what was your primary takeaway from this?
I mean, I'll start with the fact that I thought it was an effective debate. I thought our colleague Patrice Roy did a good job of moderating. I thought people were able to make their points clearly and engage with one another. But I don't think that you would watch that debate as a Quebecer or a French-speaking Canadian and see something different that you hadn't already seen, or that you wouldn't suddenly reconsider your position in terms of where we are. And that, of course, is because of Donald Trump. That huge question has framed so much of this election. And if the answer was somewhere on that stage tonight, it probably wasn't with the Bloc Québécois, who will never form government, and the NDP, who's very unlikely to do it. Mark Carney, as Ashley pointed out, is the front runner, had the most to lose here, and I don't think he did himself any real damage. His French was definitely an obstacle at times. He had, struggled to get in or explain himself, and Pierre Poilievre did just fine. He wasn't overly aggressive, but he also doesn't have as much at stake here in this French debate. So I'm not sure it changed anything materially. You got a good sense of where people stood on some of the key issues, whether it be immigration, pipeline, climate change, and other things. But it was not the knockout punch moment that some of these leaders needed tonight.
It was interesting watching you two watch the debate, because you're both sort of studied political watchers. I was looking to see if anything sort of surprised you. I don't get the impression it did, David.
No, I was looking at this. This was a week in the campaign for Mark Carney as the front runner that was just filled with downside risk, right? Because he had two really important French language Quebec set pieces that he needed to do well in. The Tout le monde en parle interview on Sunday night and this debate this evening. And for someone whose French has been a work in progress throughout this his political career, which goes back 90 days, it improved to the point that he got really through both of these events without damage and maybe even with a little bit of benefit from his performance based on what you sort of see in the reviews and the assessments of it. So, coming into this tonight, he needed to either really be hammered or to really hammer himself. And then I don't think that's what happened. I mean, he came out of this, I think, just fine. Everything you hear from the Liberals is they think that all the campaigns are texting to say their guy won. That happens every debate. So, poll with a margin of error of 100%. But, Mark Carney did not get beat up. He did not lose. He did not make a big mistake. He did not screw up tonight. And that is a big win when you are the odds-on favorite to win in all the key parts of the country. You need to win.
One French debate. This was it. Did it change anything in Quebec, do you think?
Yves-François Blanchet, also had a lot at stake here tonight. This was the moment where he had to find an opportunity to make his case to Quebecers. He had to try and show Quebecers that Mark Carney does not understand Quebec. He didn't do that second part. The first part, he did pretty effectively. If you are concerned that Mark Carney cannot defend Quebec's interest at a negotiating table with Donald Trump, if you are concerned he's more worried about the Ontario automobile sector than what's happening in Quebec, and that he might not go as far as is needed to protect Quebec language and identity and culture, he put those cards on the table. The problem is that Mr. Carney has said that he will do his best. He seems to understand what Mr. Blanchet is trying to project here. So I don't know that changed anything in a big way for Mr. Blanchet and for the Bloc Québécois tonight, but it may have stopped the bleeding, which I think is equally important for them.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. So if tonight was Yves-François Blanchet's night, I suppose that makes tomorrow Pierre Poilievre's.
Pierre Poilievre, this is his real chance to try to turn and salvage what was a seemingly inevitable election victory that now looks like a pretty probable loss at this stage in the campaign. And it's also Jagmeet Singh's opportunity to try to save official party status for the NDP. Yep. The polls would suggest that they're going to lose at least half, if not 2/3 of their caucus right now. That will put them below the 12 seats you need for official party status. He needs to get back into the relevancy game in English Canada in a big way, because if neither of the leaders are able to do this, it's not just this election that's kind of on the line, it's probably their careers as leaders that are on the line. If Jagmeet Singh in his third election sees further diminishment of the NDP, there's just no way he can credibly stick around. And if Pierre Poilievre goes from a 25-point lead in the polls and a mountain of cash from fundraising and loses the fourth straight election to the Liberals for the Conservatives, and Mark Carney comes out of this with a majority government, it's very difficult to see how Mr. Poilievre sticks around as leader of the Conservative Party. He has enormous support and control within the party as it is, but the party as it exists is not punching through in Ontario the way they want it to do, even with the Trump factor at play. So we'll see what he's able to do tomorrow night, but this is his last real set-piece chance to change the thought process in the final days before voting.
But it's not over yet, right?
No,
and you saw a calm, capable Pierre Poilievre, but we also know he's an aggressive fighter. And if he wants to let that loose tomorrow and try and hurt Mr. Carney, he will do that. And he will do it because his political future is at stake.
A lot more than that's at stake.
That's right.
Okay. All right. David, Rosie, thanks very much.